Hey everyone, I'm Jay Shear and welcome to Business Minds Coffee Chat. The goal of this show is to share insights, help to lift and inspire others, and deliver practical, meaningful, and actionable content. One of the things that I love about hosting this show is meeting and learning from interesting people in the world of business and bringing them to you each week. Today's guest is no exception. He's Australia's world-leading intuitive, an international best-selling author, a global entrepreneur, healer, mentor, teacher, and keynote speaker. With over 30 years' experience, he's worked with and advised entrepreneurs, multinationals, and Fortune 500 companies around the world. He's been featured in Inc., the CEO Magazine, Mind Food, the Huffington Post, ABC, and more. Please welcome the CEO and founder of Craigh Wilson Intuitive, Craigh Wilson.
Great to be here with you, Jay. Thank you for that warm introduction.
Oh my gosh, thank you very much. And Craigh, I'm grateful for you being here today. Thank you.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here with you and your audience.
So let's start, if we can, with what an intuitive is. And if you could also share with us your origin story, Craigh, and when you discovered your gifts.
So what I'd like to share with you is what I believe intuition is and what intuition isn't. Intuition is knowing something without a logical explanation. So I would state that up front. What intuition isn't is coming from fear. And now more than ever, it's important that we don't come from fear when we are listening to our intuition. My backstory, where did it all start? Well, right back from when I was born. So it's quite emotional even when I talk about it, because as soon as I talk about it, I actually start seeing energies and things like that. So it came back to being in the crib, and I could always see an energy around me, like a force field, like a bubble, and it would turn one way, it would turn the other. And I thought it was quite interesting and made me feel very calm. You know, I'm talking about being, 14, 15 months old. It was just part of me. And then I started sort of touching it, and I was moving the energy, and this bubble would go one way and then I'd spin it the other. And then I started using my mind. And by using my mind, I could actually move the energy in and around me. I thought it was quite normal. And then I can recall being 3, 4 years old, talking with my friends, as a kid, and thinking everyone was the same. And then I found out that people didn't have quite the same strength of experience that I had. I was brought up a Christian, brought up a Catholic, and then obviously going into the Catholic school system, thought maybe I might be playing for the wrong team. So that sort of, I think, sort of shut it down a little. So yeah, going way back. But one good thing was at school, I was always very sensitive, very empathetic. So I was able to see things have a sort of a prophetic nature to things, For me, intuition is a higher power. For me, it is actually listening to God, whatever that may be. For me, it's a universal God. I've been brought up in a Christian tradition, but I think we're learning more and more about the Bible and what that universal force and energy is. And then, Jay, when I was about 8 or 9 years old, I remember being in my bedroom. I was looking up the street, classic 70s, the cul-de-sac. And as you know, back then, there weren't as many TV stations, weren't a lot of influencers. And I just had the most profound experience. And I felt this energy sort of coming over me. And then I looked down at my hands, Jay, and I could actually see straight through my hands. And I moved them, and I wasn't on any drugs or medication, it's all normal stuff. And I saw actually the universe in my hands. I saw star systems and colors and lights, and I knew I was here for something, a special mission, to help people awaken. And then it was interesting, Jay. It was like a movie. It shut down and never came back. I sort of forgot about it until I was 35 years old.
So from the age of when did it shut down?
9, yeah.
9.
So nearly 25 years or something. It just sort of went dormant.
Okay.
So I was sort of awoken some sort of program, and then it sort of went deep within me. And then as I started meditating at school when I was 17, I'm 49 in a couple of weeks. And then it just unraveled. And a lot of the things that are happening now in the world, this extraordinary time, I've felt and been guided that we would come to this time. I knew ever since I was a child, and I'm sure some of your listeners could relate. Some of them would know that these times were always going to happen. And they, as we were saying before the podcast, they're extraordinary times, and they're times of choices for human beings to step up and to see who we can become in these times. So the gift goes way back. And it goes right back to since I was born.
So can we go back just for a moment or two? I'm curious, as you felt these feelings and realized that you did have these gifts, did you have conversations, discussions with your parents, family, to try to understand what this is, where this was coming from?
Not at that time.
Or if anyone else in your family had similar experiences.
I did ask about the energies and stuff, and they didn't really know what I meant. I never spoke about seeing through my hands up until probably about 4 years ago publicly. So it's on the front page of my website now. And people are more open to metaphysics now. Everything is one, everything is energy, whether it's science or some type of belief system. And I truly believe that, we're all part of it. And I'm working now with a number of neuro scientists, which is pretty cool. And talking about that 99.99% of what we see, we can't see, those spectrums. I did try to speak to people at different times, but it was, well, as you know, there wasn't the internet, and there wasn't, there was the odd book or, some type of spiritual person. And I learned different types of meditation. I was in transcendental meditation for a long time. And in there, that was an interesting one as well. I rose through the ranks quite quickly. And some of you may or may not know, but TM and the Cities program, which is a course in invincibility, was actually what Star Wars was based upon.
No kidding.
So, yeah. So I actually learned the Jedi program and came out of that at 27, which is interesting. And not to call anything significant about who I am, but I had a very unique role. So in that role, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi is actually Yoda. So Yoda was modeled on Maharishi. And if you viewers Google Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, you go, oh my God, it looks just like Yoda. So a lot of those guys were cities. They were TM, they were advanced meditators. And in that, you learn a form of meditation. So just Google it and you can see for yourself. I went into a castle. We actually have a couple of castles in Australia, and there's one on a school castle. And I learned in the, over a deep process of the advanced schooling. And I was the first man to achieve the city state in the world. And I was 27 years old. So I was like, well, what do I do now? Because my teacher was one under Maharishi. He was a pundit. And, it was an extraordinary time to be gifted, but I also felt very alone, Jay, because I didn't have anyone that I could relate to at the level of awareness. And when I can see things like looking through my hands, which turned into a gift, it's, remote viewing. I can look into and see video of potential realities. I can look into someone's past. I can smell, taste, touch, feel. It's a very visceral, very real. It's as real as I'm talking to you now, and it's wonderful, and I love it, but it uses a lot of energy. So I had to learn how to use it, when to use it, when not to use it. If you think about like being a Jedi, there's times to use it, there's times not to use it. People are drawn to that purity, that connection, and we all have it. I'm simply a way shower, Jay. I'm nothing more advanced than anyone else. I suppose I bet my pre-programming of being born was to come in to deliver this and to help other people activate this awareness, this seeing, this knowing. Then from there, the intuition led to empathy and healing, and people, as even, like Jesus said, you can do what I can do and more, as one of the avatars. So I think it's more that example of that consciousness of holding a space for people to heal themselves. And now I run, groups and weekly, around the world, one-on-one, and, speaking when I can, like yourself. But so to teach people so that they can actually use intuition for themselves, they can clear their mind, they can heal themselves, and they can make really accurate decisions on demand by using a higher level of consciousness. But also science now, and I'll have to send it to you. I've built a diagram where your heart, gut, brain connection. So our heart is the first cell in the body, and the heart actually, in the first organ, it beats before there's one brain cell firing. And twice as much information goes from the heart to the head rather than the other way around. So the heart is actually where it's at. Our brain has as little as 10 million neurons in it, and our gut has as many as 500 million neurons in it. So it's got some 50 times more neurons in it than our head. And what I've been able to ascertain through spiritual knowledge, and now through science, as I'm working with a number of universities, Sydney University in Australia is like the Harvard of Australia, and I'm working with their head of psychology and neuroscientists there, is that when we're in a flow state, when we're in a very advanced loving state, a connected state, that our heart, gut, brain connection works automatically. So if you look at it from a practical point of view, you're using more neurons, more experiences, you're accessing more of your consciousness in your body. Okay. But what I would say, and I think now I had a very good feeling in this podcast last night, is what I'm going to share tonight, which in the US, which I haven't shared as much before, is that's great, but there's actually the super consciousness. It's actually connecting into everything. And, you can have a really powerful brain, Jay, and a heart. You can have a very visionary mind, a visionary heart, but really where it's at is actually having the access to the universal mind and the universal heart, as above, so below. And some of you'll know, if you look at the pictures in space of galaxies and things, some of them actually look like eyes and things like that. So it's very interesting. It's like in nature, with people like Don Tolman, there's certain fruits and there's walnuts that look like the brain, that actually are good for the brain. There's an avocado is very good for women, has a 9-month gestation period. It's very good for that. And it goes on and on. So it's like nature it's all there for us on this planet and above us. And it's right in front of us if we're willing to trust it and to use it.
That is really interesting. Since you brought up flow state, I mean, there's so many things that you've thrown out there that I would love to dig into. But
I did open up a little.
No, but that's okay. I appreciate that. But I do want to talk about flow state for a moment, and also the science piece of intuition. But on flow states, have you studied or read any of the works of Stephen Kotler? Are you familiar with Stephen Kotler?
I'm familiar, but have not specifically read about it.
Okay, so he runs the Flow Genome Project and has written some really amazing work on flow states, and has done a lot of studying on those states themselves, and how individuals are able to get into a flow state and what actually happens in the brain during a flow state itself. So I'd be really interested to hear from you. What is it like? Can you describe what it's like to be in a flow state? And are you able to activate a flow state and be able to help others get into that state as well?
Like you, I just love podcasts. It's so great to connect with you, Jay. But just recalling who you spoke about, then I'm really excited to check that out. So yeah, I just love connecting with podcasts. It's amazing what you learn, isn't it? You're here to share, but as long as you're willing to receive and learn. So it's extraordinary. Yes, my whole work is about being in flow. and had a busy morning, just about to travel within my state. The border's closed. We've got a hard border closed, but and what am teaching is an advanced form of meditation where we kind of hack the meditation process so we can shorten it. So a flow state for me is like being on holidays. You feel very calm, you feel very relaxed. And if you can visualize being on holidays, and let's say you've been on holidays, you guys don't take as much vacation time as us, but let's say a week or a couple of weeks, or some of you even, 2 or 3 weeks, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You're in this kind of bubble, nothing kind of worries you too much. When you make decisions, you have more comfort with those decisions. You're not second guessing yourself as much. You're not as stimulated. Obviously, technology has brought us together, Jay, through like-minded people. But a flow state it's a knowing. And as I talk about my best-selling book, Intuitive, I think, I feel, I see, I know. It's a knowingness. It's the deepest form of meditation. Sorry, of intuition. A maternal knowing. Women, traditionally have been known for intuition. But what I've learned through science is that we've got it too, because we're born from our mum. So we've got that. So it's a calmness, it's a knowingness, it's knowing that everything's going to be okay. It's you just moving forward, Jay, aren't you? I know you can relate to flow. So you just keep moving forward, and if you're off course or slightly adue, or like sailing, or I'm a pilot, so you're off, you're yawing or pitching. You just come back on course. And the other thing I'd really like, sort of big truth bomb I'd like to share, which I haven't ever shared before. So I'm really loving the energy, Jay, is sometimes you're meant to not make the right decision. And I've never said that on a podcast before. Sometimes you're meant to get it wrong. And when I say wrong, because it's an adjustment, and then you can look at yourself, yourself, look in the mirror and say, well, is that actually who or what I want to be? So sometimes we learn more from the mistakes than we learn from getting it right.
Yes, there is no doubt about that. I think some of our best learnings come from the feedback that we receive when things don't go quite as we planned, or we experience some sort of failure or setback. It seems like it's the universe's way of saying, this is a lesson that you need to learn at this exact moment in time. So pay attention.
Well, yeah, 100%. And sometimes, I've got a family situation with, a parent who's not, his health is challenged right now, and they're looking at serious treatment. And I've got to trust too, even though that I'm someone who can help, with clarity and even potential healing. But we all have our own journey, and we've got to trust that. And then sometimes what I do find with being in a flow state, Jay, and be interested with you, is that I'm able to process things a lot faster. Mm-hmm. So I'm surrendering to the what's going on in that moment, or what appears to be a block, which actually makes it sharper. So, I woke up this morning and, sort of, we're coming into spring. You guys fall now. Ours is the first couple of days of spring because we're on the other side of the world. And, I had my black coffee this morning, instead of having some almond milk in there or whatever. It's like, yep, no, today's the day. It wasn't because it was spring or anything, but you make those, you can, and then later in my meditation and my intuition, I had a sense and said, right, again, another big one, which I don't normally share this much, but I'm being told to intuitively. It's like, now this is mission 2. I've completed my first mission in my life. And today, I knew it was coming. I thought I was but today is actually the first part of my next mission that I'm here on the planet to do. So it's quite interesting. But when you're in a flow state, it's like being a quarterback and you can throw that ball just that half a second faster. It's that kind of thing. And we're working more and more with professional athletes and basketball players and stuff like that. Because as you know, you can have a rookie or a kid who's got all the talent, they've invested all the money, and you can do the NLP and get the mind right. But if his emotions aren't right and his gut ain't right, then he ain't going to throw that ball, and he's going to question, or she's going to question herself. So that's what I'm really excited is that I'm working more and more with high performance people and high performance athletes because they've got the discipline, and as you know, they'll take the coaching. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. I look forward to learning more about the research that you're doing and also the findings that come out of that research. And I'm sure, Craig, that many people that are listening have experienced a flow state at one
Yeah,
time or another in their life, and maybe just haven't been able to put a finger on it or have the right term for it. But it's one of those times where time just seems to stop, right?
that's right.
We're into something, and our ability to focus and our ability to have that type of clarity and actually execute on the things that we're working on, it's amazing. And then the next thing you know, an hour has gone by, but it almost felt like it was 5 minutes.
That's
And it's
correct, and that's what people experience in the program. But you're right; it's like the Matrix. You know, the bullets come at you, you just move out of the way. What was it they saying to you? It's a restful alertness. So
yeah.
you're alert but restful at the same time. I'll bring a prop in. One of my nicknames is I call the duck runner. So it's a little duck, and it's kind of like being a duck. And people go, "Wait, what is this duck runner thing?" It's like, well, it's smooth on the surface, but the feet are pedaling underneath. So I heard in recent times that when we use the conscious mind, Jay, we're using as little as 2,000 bits of information that we can process at one time. When we access the subconscious, the intuition, get ready for this because it blew me away. Up to 400 billion bits of information can be processed.
Wow. Wow, that's
So
amazing.
that's what excites me. And yeah, I'm really enjoying this interview. But what you said is so true, because you said to me, earlier in the interview, were you able to speak to people about this? Yeah, as a kid and earlier, I didn't have a language. I only had a language around intuition probably when I was around 34, 35. So you're right. A lot of people are having flashes or seeing things. Sometimes, I'm, talking to someone and I'll actually see a cue. I'll actually see a flash. And some people would say they're orbs or angels or, whatever. But I can tell you for myself and my clients and my top clients, we all see the same things. We also get noises like, again, I'm sharing a lot of truth bombs with you today. I'm talking and to someone and we're going to go, we'll say, well, I don't think we should do that, but I think we should do this. And we'll actually feel, what's the movie with when he goes, not Gravity, the one where he goes Interstellar and he's talking to himself.
Okay.
Yeah. So what happens is I'll hear it, then like the fridge will creak or the car will crack or a bit of plastic, and it's been highly accurate. So in Interstellar, there's a version of himself in a different timeline. He's trying to talk. If you've seen the movie, he sort of prods. Because what's that noise? It's actually himself on another timeline
Oh
talking to
my
himself.
gosh.
So, I just ask for you guys to be open. And if you're not, that's cool. I respect that. But I can tell you, some of us, and we're not crazy, this is happening on a consistent basis. So I think also from a point of view of timelines and, bending time, I mean, 3D time is like that. 4D time is a circle and 5D time is a spiral. So the concept of bending time, as you're saying before, and being in this flow state is something that we can experience. And, from a metaphysical point of view, it's said that, the earth and the solar system is in a certain place from all the great, the Vedas and all the great books, many, many books of wisdom saying we're coming into this cycle of awareness and truth being revealed, and you can see it all over the planet. There's great things and there's not so great things. And some people say, well, how's all this stuff, going on out there at the moment we haven't known about? And then I say to people, well, it's always been there. It just was suppressed. So the world's still the way it was a year ago or 30 years ago. It's just that people weren't willing to look at it. So now people are more ready to actually accept the way that things are and the way that things aren't, so that we can actually change them for the better.
Well, Craig, as much as we think we know, there's so much more that we don't know. And that's the beautiful thing. We're always discovering more. when we're looking in the right areas. So there is plenty out there for us.
Me too. Like what I find is that with intuition as well, and sharing some pretty advanced stuff here, is as you go to another level, it's like martial arts. You have to kind of unlearn what you learned to get to that next level, and you have to learn a new way of fighting. So you'll learn intuitive abilities of how to read situations, know things, and then you'll get to the next level. And it's, are you willing to crawl like a baby to go to the next level to get your next belt?
Well, that's a great segue, because I wanted to find out from you, does everyone have the ability to develop their intuition?
Pretty much, yeah. As I say in my book, how to access and use your birth-given intuition. Obviously, certain people who have, maybe impaired in some way or a disability. The irony is, though, Jay, most of those, a lot of them have really good intuition. You find certain autistic kids and things like that, or Down syndrome or whatever it may be, a lot of them are actually very tuned in. Some of them are very advanced, actually, but they can't communicate or express it. But pretty much everyone can do it. What I would say to you, having worked with thousands of people and reached millions around the world, is every single person that's been open to it and said, "Look, I'm willing to have an experience," and that's why I offer at the moment. I've got a 21-day, 3-week program where people can try it for themselves. We do that on a weekly basis. We've got one actually tomorrow, US time. It works. People are open to it. And then there was a time where I facilitated healing. I did remote healing, remote viewing, all that kind of thing. And then Spirit said to me, look, to be honest, it was taking a bit of a toll on me, because I had all these, a lot of people that I was working, with to help them. And it was like, I had to keep filling up their gas tank, Jay. So while I was filling up their gas tank, I was getting a bit tired. So it was kind of like being an energetic spiritual doctor. I was seeing 35 to 40 people a week, 100 phone calls, and it was tiring. And I was also traveling on the east coast of Australia, doing presentations in groups and things like that, and seeing people one-on-one. And then Spirit told me, for me, God said, look, you need to teach people how to do this for themselves. So I believe intuition is probably one of the greatest leaps in the 21st century. You'll hear people like Gary Vee and others who are really into it. I haven't approached Gary yet, because he said he loves meditation, intuition, but he's afraid of what he might find. So I don't think he's ready to let go of his, because he's been very successful. But I think there'll be a time where I'll reach out, or someone will introduce us. Because again, when you are listening to your intuition, you're learning to be with yourself, Jay, and not everyone's ready to face themselves. So it becomes very black and white as to who you are. The other thing with intuition, as to like the law of attraction, because I teach people, stockbrokers, traders, investment bankers, private family offices, royal families, government officials, single mums, you name it, is you can use the law of attraction, but for me, it's about doing what's best for others and doing what's best for me. So I don't just ask for something blindly, whether it's success or a business relationship or a holiday. If it's not what I believe is of the highest calling for me and the others, then I don't ask for it. So it's a very moralistic approach. Someone said to me, "Could you be a bad person and use your intuition the way you teach it?" Because mine's very heart-based. And say, well, no. There's certain laws, or universal laws, I'm trying to remember. I think it might have been Jim Rohn. You don't create success. It's you attract success. So my model is a bit like, if any of you guys out there seen Cobra Kai, the latest Karate Kid.
Karate Kid. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my God. I watched it all. Ours is the Miyagi approach. If you want something a bit flashier that's going to stroke your ego and tell you that you were, you're an Egyptian king or queen, and you have all these powers and you're a wizard or something like that, then that's great. But if you're willing to be responsible and humble, I'll teach you skills that will blow your mind off, because we're all in the image of the universe. And all that stuff, from my experience, is very low level. It's all archetypal identity stuff. The human being is an extraordinary thing that's been created, and a spiritual being in a physical form. So these archetypes, are divisive and limiting. If anyone says they have more, abilities than another, they may have more skills learned over time, but we all have the same potential.
Interesting. So I want to talk for a moment about some of the keynotes that you've given. So you've done some inspiring keynote speeches on a broad range of different topics, including building a conscious business and also how to use intuition to grow your business. So would you share with us what some of the key takeaways are from those keynotes that our audience can apply in their businesses?
To use intuition, as I said, first is to get clear with yourself. So it's being able to sit quietly, sit comfortably, to allow your thoughts and feelings to come up. And rather than using a mantra, I am teaching you to allow your subconscious thoughts to come forward. We have 60,000 thoughts a day. Stanford tells us, and up to 95% of the thoughts we have are negative, and 95% of the thoughts we had yesterday, we had today. So if you can give permission for your subconscious to come up, you can actually take control and move past your fears and things like that, because we want to get from a place of fear into a place of flow. And the break-even point, as Professor Elias acknowledges, is creativity is at clarity and confidence. I have a fear to flow model, which I'll send out to you. And if any people in your audience, I'm quite happy to send that out. So we have fear, we have anxiety, we have frustration and survival, and we have clarity, confidence. We have, this is my latest keynote, and we have peak performance and flow. And the thing at the moment, Jay, and everyone, is that we did a survey with 700 odd international leaders around the world. And would you believe that up to 83% of them were between survival and fear right now? And that was 12 weeks ago.
No kidding.
So how do you lead yourself or a team in these times? So it's really about, before you wake out of bed, and one of my clients and business partners is an Olympic coach, and even he's now using the model before he gets his feet on the floor. Where am I? If he's not in a place of clarity, he doesn't get out of bed. If he's peak, he gets out of bed. If he's flow, because we wake up in the morning, sometimes we feel great, even those of us that are used to peak performance. But sometimes, well, I'm feeling a bit frustrated. Well, don't get out of bed. So come into your heart, thank the mind for sharing, and then choose something else. So how do you use it for business? It's about finding out really, who are you? If you're doing what you love or moving towards you love, that's great. But if you're in a job to earn money, then be okay with that, and have some freedom around it, and see it as, as Robert Kiyosaki says, it's almost like, have a hobby on the side, moving towards, that, what you love to do. But it's, and not to beat yourself up so much. So the way I teach intuition in business is it's a journey of self-worth and self-love, because some of us, as we move forward, we can feel imposter syndrome. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, Jay. I certainly have. My business is going to another level of success, and all going well. Looks like I'm going to be on a regular television show, and that's wonderful. And it's interesting, you start achieving a lot of the things that you wanted to, and then you work out, you become, with intuition in business, you sort of learn to be less attached to things. You're more in the middle. So it's a bit like that matrix. So you're neither in a state of ridiculous joy, but you're also not sad. You're in a state of kind of balance. And when you do that, when you're making decisions, you're making them of the highest order, as we teach. You do what's best for all, do what's best for me. So you're putting more purity into the mix. And then when you do deals, or when you walk away from deals, people know subconsciously, as you said earlier, and they can't necessarily put their finger on it, Jay, but they know that you're a good person, and that you're telling the truth. And it's not just some transaction, a win gain, like I'm going to get the better deal on you, I'm going to screw you, and you're going to be worse off. In this way of doing business, in this supply chain, in this partnership globally, you're doing business where certainly in all areas, but as service providers like you and I, a lot of my clients will be clients for life, the way that it's going, because there's such a level of respect and honor, and you're doing what's right. You're playing a bigger game. And that's what's great with the internet. And, you know, us speaking from two different sides of the world. I actually did my pilots. I learned to fly in Florida. So I spent a bit of time around Fort Lauderdale and Daytona Beach and Ormond Beach. That's where I learned to fly.
Outstanding.
So we couldn't, we couldn't do that. So I think it teaches you to play a bigger game. It also, there's a lot of coaches out there, there's a lot of speakers and things like that. It's actually acknowledging someone for their gifts and for your gifts, and actually see where there can be some real or organic collaboration. Because there's some things that you love to do, Jay, that I don't, and vice versa. So if you can collaborate and help more people, then all power. I believe that and it's, on a physical plane, on a third dimension, but if we go into a 5D plane upwards, the model forward is a collaborative model. It's things like we're doing now. It's having maybe one internal person and all these remote people all over the world. So collaboration is where it is. Intuition in business is acknowledging your gifts and acting on them, and not nullifying the things that you're good at that you don't give value to, because so many times you can do something that's simple for you, which is very, very difficult for somebody else to do. And somebody out there needs to understand your giftedness, as I have some pretty unique gifts, but I can teach them. So I think intuition in business is about surrendering to your own truth. And when you're doing what you're meant to do, when you're in that place of joy and flow, then you can be of greatest service to others.
So when you're working with let's say a Fortune 500 company as an example, is meditation always part of the training?
Yeah, great question. Well, you can imagine it's a mixed bag, Jay. So generally we'll work with one person, which could be a CEO, a board member, a chairman. They may be a senior vice president, whatever it is. Usually in many cases, they may have a personal issue, with a personal intimate relationship with their partner or a child. So they've tried everything in the box to solve problems and they just can't get a read on it. Or they're, which I haven't shared yet, Harvard Medical School tells us that up to 98% of all illness and disease is stress and trauma related. So I teach people how, again, it's in the pack, which I'll send out, 7 levels of consciousness. We have energy, mental, emotional, physical, biology, chemistry, DNA. So when we have stress and trauma, that's what stops us thinking clearly. It creates major health issues right down to our genetics. In some cases, but what I find, the good ones really use it, and they're just starting to talk more about it now openly. But to be honest, for a long time, Jay, they kept it secret that they were working with me. I was kind of like their secret weapon. So we'd look at deals, and I mean, we're talking large stuff here. I mean, like I was directly involved, with a property deal, for $500 million US, 8 weeks ago, and we had a verbal on it, but obviously it was in those property zones, where they rebuild an area, and and clean out all the crap and all the not so nice people. But obviously with rentals and all the government assistance, they're a little bit nervous right now. But the deal was actually going ahead. But again, coming back to the corporates, some of them want advice. So like, well, Craig, what's your read on this? Da da da, and they pay time for money, and that's great. The ones that have the right framework really get it and appreciate it. The ones that have a really high ego, who have used a winning formula of Machiavellian and stuff like that, want to use the knowledge and the force when they want to, and then turn it off when they don't. So as part of my selection criteria, I'm very particular about who I onboard. But what I am doing, which is really exciting, with some business partners and close associates here and throughout Asia currently, and the US, is introducing an intuitive peak performance meditation. And so far it's going really well.
Well, I look forward to hearing more about that when you're
Well, I'd
ready
love
to
for you to
share.
participate. Yeah, we'll send you a link.
Please do. So, Craig, who then is an ideal client for you? So, where you've had the most success, the type of client that you most enjoy engaging with, who is that individual?
Great questions. The complete and utter truth to date, I love working with the big high end people, but they have a lot of unlearning to do, and they've built success to get a certain way, so it's really challenging for them to take a risk. So for me, it's usually the entrepreneur,
Hmm.
as you know, the small business owner who's got it all on the line, and they may be someone who's been a semi pro or professional athlete at some stage, but basically entrepreneurs who are really passionate. So they've got that purpose, they got that why bit set up, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to be the best version of themselves. So that's my ideal client, is someone that's open, and those kind of clients that I work with have double, triple revenue growth, and but not only that, they've got great relationships at home. They get on better with their kids. The animals feel the energy. It's not just a financial. It's a way of living. It is. It's a way of being, and it just gets better. The technology and protocols I teach is something that you can use for the rest of your life, whether you work with us for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, or a couple of years. So
Mm.
our ideal clients are people that just want to be the best version of themselves, and probably have got good hearts and want to make a difference in the world, and want other people to be great, you know, and they want to be an example of their highest values.
Yeah, love that. So I want to switch gears for a moment. And so you mentioned one of your books. You have written, is it 3 books at this point?
The third one's coming. Yeah.
Outstanding. So the first book, Better Business, Better Life, Better World, what's the story behind that book and how did that experience impact your career?
Well, quite massively. It's a book I co-wrote, so I was asked to co-write the book, and Simon Sinek initially was going to be involved, but it was right around the time that he took off. So it was a great opportunity to co-write a book with Simon Sinek, but some other really wonderful people were involved. So I've been involved with an organization, a lifetime partner, called B1G1, Buy One, Give One, and it's where you can give, where you can make a big impact by doing something very small. So, just giving a few cents of every dollar can provide thousands of days or liters of life-saving water for someone in Rwanda, somewhere like that around the world.
Mhm.
So I had the great opportunity to be asked to co-write that book with some other thought leaders. It had a huge impact because it got me ready to write intuitive. I've been wanting to write intuitive for a long time, which became a US Amazon bestseller, which is great. And the intention of that book was, what's the legacy that we would leave behind, to our grandchildren, and what would we say? And it was interesting because that was like 4 years ago. And when you think of where we are right now, on our planet and society and who we are, and living with a virus, conquering it, whatever it may be, and it really taught me about the service economy, and that we're really all in this together. And I think sometimes we can think, hey, I'm okay in middle America or in Australia, if you're middle class, I'm going to be okay. Well, maybe for some time, but at the end of the day, it's not okay for someone, even at the moment, they're saying people are going to die from hunger from 10 million to 18 million with what's going on right now. That it's not okay. And it's on our watch, and we can sit back with our lemonade and Kool-Aid and a beer and family, but there's part of our consciousness. There's other human beings out there that are not in a real great state right now. And there's also a lot of suicide as well. So with the lockdown in Melbourne, there are people that are really struggling out there. So it gave me a greater sense of helping. But as you probably know, Jay, it feels really good. There's a certain chemical reaction. It does actually feel really, really good to give Harvard Medical School have come out with research in the last few years saying that when you do a good deed, one good
Hmm.
deed a day, that your immune system strengthens by 40%. What's
Really?
really, yeah, and what's really
Yeah.
interesting, Jay, is that if you, the person who receives the deed, their immune system improves by 40%.
Wow. That's, oh, I love that.
And the
That's
third
outstanding.
thing, which is existential, is if you tell that to someone, so I'm telling that to you, Jay, your immune system can improve by 40% if you like the idea of that.
Oh, bring it on, Craig.
So that's where I was like, wow. And it's like I'm in this global community. And yeah, then I wrote Intuitive, which took 18 months, 30 years in a lifetime. And I just went away. You know, it's oh, you can see it up there, but it's a big book. It's 87,000 words, 38 chapters in 3 sections, but it's very easy to read, very practical. It's an evergreen book. So I think it got me ready. And since the book, as you said in the intro, I've been on a lot of media. There's been hundreds and hundreds of media pieces. And, you know, I had to trust my intuition when was the right time to launch Intuitive, the book, because it could have been just, oh, this is a load of crap. You know, who is this guy? What's he talking about? But the world was ready for it. And people are more open, as you know, Jay, to meditation, flow, peak performance now than ever. One of my books I want to write is called Metaphysical, where I'm going to explain more of these metaphysical things. So I'm halfway through the book series at the moment, but I'm looking forward to writing Metaphysical because it'll explain how it all works. But what's really awesome now is um, how it changed is I knew I had to develop I work with people in small groups, very large groups, and one-on-one and business partnerships. So I've now got the group program that can scale where hundreds and thousands of people weekly can experience intuition for themselves and experience those miracles for themselves.
Yeah, that's terrific. So share with our audience what your legacy is then.
My legacy is for there to be an intuitive world, you know, where people, you know, that we live in a heart-based society, heart-based society, heart-based business. And so that's my legacy. That's my job. And yeah, I think we're on track. You know, with all the stuff that's happening around the world, people are waking up and going, you know what? There's a line in the sand here. There's certain things, certain liberties. You know, sure we need to be safe, but you know, not for our freedom. And you know, very patriotic for the United States, but we're with you as well. And people don't want to survive. They want to thrive. They want to
Mhm.
connect and hug and love and be, you know. So I think we're in extraordinary times. We have all the technology, the tools. We've got all the training that our parents didn't have. We've got all the self-help. We've got people like you and other extraordinary people out there that are committed to being positive, being healthy, and realizing the full potential for humanity. So let's do that.
Yeah. So how has the pandemic changed your business? How are you thriving through it? What lessons have you learned through this challenging time? And any of those lessons that you learned, are you going to apply those learnings into your business to help you adapt and continue to grow and thrive?
So yes to all those things, and I'm applying them every day, moment by moment, because that's really the work, the flow work. I'm simplifying my life. I'm looking at how I can be best of service. The business has more than tripled, and to be honest, I felt a little sad about that, you know, and I'm getting a bit emotional now because I'm like, I didn't want my greatest gifts to be used in a time where people are suffering. But then on reflection, I realized my role is actually to take people out of fear to flow, and I've got real tools and techniques. I've embraced that because I didn't
Good.
want to take advantage of these times. I wanted to make sure it was sincere.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what I'm doing is putting in a lot of structure and systems. I'm being very particular about where I put my attention, Jay, as we were saying earlier, before the podcast. For me, I've never been in a better place. So it's kind of like I was built for these times. And I think I can get, you
Yeah.
can relate to that. So I was in case of emergency break glass. Well, okay. So, and now I'm going around, helping other people smash their glass so they can get out. And so for me, it's great. I'm learning have to pace myself because I've got a lot of people that I'm working with, a lot of partnerships. The
Mhm.
best thing about it, Jay, is people like yourself, just extraordinary gifts and miracle. You could call coincidence or synchronicity. I would call it divine synchronicity. So I think we're seeing the best of people and the worst of people. The great part about that is that I'm spending more time with my tribe and finding them. So I think one of my things is to find at least 10,000 people, like Jay for you, and 10,000 people like Craig, and that's happening. Um, I've never been clearer on where I'm going. It's like, I'm building, this model where thousands of people can connect online weekly, and which is what my visions. And then eventually that will be in stadiums and football stadiums and things like that. And we're on track for that. And I'm just blown away by the courage and resilience of people that are heart based and, as you say, seeing things for what they are and moving forward. So for me personally, yeah, it's not easy. It's challenging because in some ways I wish the growth wasn't as high and I had a little bit more time, but it's forcing me. I'm becoming a better person. I'm more organized. I've got a house renovation. I've, you know, you're getting me to open up. So this year, during COVID, I met, my partner in the last 7 months. So it's
Really
extraordinary. Yeah. So
outstanding.
it just a lot of miracles. As someone I've been waiting for a long time, and it was
That's
very just one of those things. And she was blown away. She just thought we might go on a few dates and that'd be it. And I'm going to go and see her in a few hours. But
good for you.
so it's never been a greater time for me. But I've had to let go of a lot of things. So there's a lot of things that just didn't work. There were, and for those of you like you and others who can relate, whether you've been high performance or successful, um, it's like I can't hide behind some of my successes anymore. There's certain things that have got to come up and be removed. They're just no longer required. So I feel that it's been a time of a great purging and a great cleansing, and but also meeting extraordinary other souls like yourself. So I think as the tale of two cities, it's been the best of times and the worst of times. But I think overall it's the best of times because we've actually got an opportunity to reset the planet. But for me, I'm actually resetting myself at a higher standard. So I'm learning to love myself more without ego, by the way. When I talk about self-worth and self-love, I'm not talking about an egotistical love. I'm talking about, yeah. So look, I think overall, although it's been challenging, it's for me, it's been the best time of my life.
Yeah, that's wonderful, and I'm really glad that you framed it the way that you did. I think that as we were talking before we started recording, the optics that we use to look at a situation makes a dramatic difference. Two people can obviously look at the exact same image and see two completely different things, right? And it's powerful when you're able to look at a situation and you're able to hone in on the goodness in a situation, and you're able to extract something from it that you can actually apply to move your life or your business forward. So as opposed to looking at something and allowing that to stop you from moving forward, right? We look at a situation and we say, where's the opportunity here? Because there is an opportunity, right? There's a solution. There's a relationship. There is something that I can pull from this that is going to be beneficial and good for all. That's where we should be focusing our time and our attention. So I'm glad
It's
that you
making
shared it the way that you
it's
did.
making us better people. I'm a much better person because of what's happened, and
Wonderful.
it's been increasingly the case. And it's my great honor to help other people with the opportunity to step up. And it's always the image of a lighthouse, like I feel my role is not to save people. And people say, what do I do, Craig? And I say, well, safe harbor's over there, the rocks are over there. And they go, but what should I do? I can't tell you what to do. I could just point, say it's safe over there and it's dangerous there. And they might say, yeah, but my husband's swimming that way and my kid's swimming that way. What do I do? It's, if we want to get deep, it's getting to those points. You've got to really work out who you are, what you're not. Some people were, not necessarily saying those relationships, but some people we've got to love and let them move on their journey. And we've got to hang out with our tribe. And that's exciting, to hang out with more people like ourselves. Wouldn't you agree, Jay?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, no question. So, what message would you like to leave our viewers with?
Be true to yourself and true to others. Being heart-based is actually where it's at. If you want to live an intuitive life, a happy businesses, then come from the heart. And I'm not talking about fleeting emotions. I'm talking about the science and the spiritual design of what it is to be a human being. To be heart-based, trust your heart and gut and brain in the right order. The brain will follow. The brain's only afraid. It's a 2 million-year-old survival machine. But when it has a connection with the heart and the gut, it'll serve you well. So follow your heart always. If you want to find out more about the science, then reach out. CraighWilson.com. It's Gaelic, Craigh with a H, Craigh, Wilson.com. And if you're interested in learning about the Fear to Flow pack, or you'd like to experience it as a genuine gift, it's normally worth $397. It's a genuine gift for the right people. I've only offered it once before, Jay. I'd love for people to try it. If they enjoy it, they can continue for $97 a month.
Outstanding. Well, thank you for sharing that. And that was actually going to be my next question before I asked my final question, was where can we connect with you? So your website, that would be the preferred location. You're also active.
CraighWilson.com. Yep,
Okay.
and just email info@Craigh Wilson. If you type in Craigh Wilson Intuitive, you'll clearly find me on the internet, on Google, or LinkedIn, of course. You can reach out on Facebook, do Facebook Lives. I have one tomorrow night. But it's been a real joy, Jay. It's been really wonderful connecting with you, and I'm really honored to be on your show. And thank you for researching as thoroughly as you did, and being so considered and connected. And you're a great listener and a great interview, and it's been a real joy.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate it. I'm grateful for you being here today. And here is my final question. What one piece of advice have you received that's had the greatest impact on you personally?
For me, it's always trust your heart. So again, not the fleeting heart. And that's all, you can see it through my whole branding. So, come from love, unconditional love, love with no conditions. So if you can act that way, do business that way, and partnerships that way, and don't hold back. I mean, share with people how you feel. And when you do that, when the love's unconditional with no conditions, it sounds so obvious, doesn't it? A lot of people talk about love, but they don't really understand it. It takes the sting out, doesn't it? The fear goes away, the worry goes away. If you generally are giving from a place with no conditions, then how can you lose?
Yeah, how true. Well, great advice. And thank you for sharing that. And again, Craigh, thank you so much for joining us today on Business Minds Coffee Chat. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak with you today. And I look forward to continuing this relationship and continuing to consume your content. And thank you.
No, likewise. And I'm really grateful that we were introduced through Steve Brosman, another incredible guy, an Olympic coach. And it's been a real honor to meet you. And I look forward to developing this relationship too.
Likewise. And for the rest of you, thank you very much for watching. And if you found value in this episode, please like and share with your friends, and also subscribe to this channel. And until next time, stay healthy and optimistic. Keep learning and growing. And remember that transformative change in your life and business always begins with you, and nothing happens until you take action. And we will see you on the next episode of Business Minds Coffee Chat. Take care.